Mr. McCaul is recognized for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the witnesses for being here today. Mr. Secretary, when Secretary Clinton testified before the full committee, I brought up Merida, and as with the chairman of this subcommittee, expressed my disappointment in the flow in the implementation of that, particularly at a time when Mexico is in a real crisis. And I know the ambassador has expressed his concerns from Mexico to us about that. I asked her to respond in specific numbers, what is the latest with that program, and I look forward to getting that response. I've spent a lot of time talking about Mexico lately and the drug cartels. I wanted to focus on another issue of importance today, and that is Venezuela. And I'm concerned, as I believe the chairman is as well, of the influence of Venezuela in Western Hemisphere. Under this budget, $5 million will be given to Venezuela in economic assistance. So I think it's appropriate to talk about the role of Venezuela, and clearly they're not our friend. Their allegiance to Iran concerns me greatly. I recently had Bolivian lawmakers who came to me in my office and told me about these large aircraft that were leaving Bolivia, flying to Venezuela, and then on to Iran. They mentioned these uranium minefields or mining facilities in Bolivia. That's a real concern. Maybe you can tell me whether that's fact or fiction, or perhaps another setting, but that is very concerning to me. And then we had the commander of Southcom, General Frazier, testified before the Senate last week and talked about his concerns about the flights between Caracas and Tehran. And just recently, I was told that the administration is considering issuing special licenses to allow Iranian aircraft and engines of U.S. origin to be serviced and repaired. To me, that's pretty stunning. I mean, if we have a role in servicing Iranian aircraft that could be complicit with exporting uranium from Bolivia and Venezuela. Mr. Secretary, let me just throw that out. This is what's being reported to me. If it is in fact true, it's very disturbing news, and I hope you can perhaps shed some light on this information.
Thank you, Mr. Congressman. I want to thank you for your concerns and your focus on Mexico and the things that you've done and brought to our attention, and we want to be as responsive as we can to your concerns about that. With regard to Venezuela, I couldn't agree with you more that we're concerned about Venezuela's position. We have been for some time, not only internally, the way Venezuela has been going after press freedoms and after opposition sectors, undermining democratic institutions, issuing things like, or doing things such as having the National Assembly delegate authority to the executive that goes beyond the term of that National Assembly, and so on. So the pattern is a long one, and we're also concerned about the relationships that Venezuela has with Iran, and we've been tracking those very, very carefully and very closely, and we've been following up. In fact, we're in continuous communication with our intelligence community. We're in continuous communication with other partners. I just had a bilateral set of meetings, day-long meetings with the Israelis recently, where we went through a whole host of issues, including this particular concern that we share with regard to Iran's. Let me just simply say that Iran does clearly want to increase its profile in the Western Hemisphere. The base point from which they start, however, is extremely low. And in that sense, we haven't seen some of the things that have been alleged out there. But I can assure you, Mr. Congressman, that we really are looking very closely at these sorts of...
Well, and my time's running out, but again, when you have the commander of Southcom, it's not me or some anonymous, this is the general commander of Southcom expressing concerns about these flights between Caracas and Tehran. That gets my attention, and I think it gets most people's attention. Do you have any information about these flights, and not only from Venezuela, but also originating out of Bolivia, and the potential that these aircraft may be carrying the very materials that Tehran may be using to produce a nuclear bomb.
Yes, we are concerned about these allegations. We've looked at them extremely carefully. We continue to monitor them very carefully. And Mr. Congressman, I want to be responsive to your question regarding the alleged licensing of. I don't know about that. This is the first I've heard about that, and I'd be glad to look into that and get back to you on it.
And just in closing, and thank you for your cooperation on that. I just find it absolutely absurd that we would be providing assistance to Iranian aircraft by way of, basically providing material support to a terrorist nation, and if these licenses are granted to fix these airplanes. So with that, and thank you for your time, and I yield back.